but it looks like the rumors might just be true. The next fight for Gervonta Tank Davis is going to be Lamont Roach, and it's set for December 14th.
Hey, hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, family? It's your boy Hot Boxing Minute, back at you with the uncut realness as only I can serve it to you. We got some news that just hit the wire today that had everybody talking on boxing media. I think the first person to break the news was Michael Benson. We had been hearing rumors about it, but it looks like the rumors might just be true. The next fight for Gervonta Tank Davis is going to be Lamont Roach, and it's set for December 14th. Now, the WBA apparently confirmed this, and it looks like it's going to be set in Houston because the Capital One Arena out there in D.C. is booked on the date of the 14th. On December 21st, we put it heads up against the rematch between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury. So it looks like it's going to be Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach out there in Houston, of all places. And we got to talk about this, folks. And I'm not exactly too big on the idea. Like, it seems like, you know, it's just another. I hate using cliche words in the sport of boxing like cherry pick or duck, because those aren't the words I'm going to use. But am I happy about this this matchup? No. No knock to Lamont Roach. No knock to Lamont Roach. For those of you who don't know, Lamont Roach is the super featherweight 130-pound champion. He's from the D.C. area. He had an amateur rivalry with Gervonta Davis. He lost to Gervonta in the amateurs. And Lamont Roach has built his career up. He had his first career loss against Jamel Herring. He got knocked down by Jamel Herring and ended up building up his career, strung off a couple of good wins. He's not the heaviest handed of dudes. His record is like 25-1. He has 10 KOs. And his most recent fight, let me see if I can pull up the stats on this one. It was against Fergal McCrory on ProBox, and this was last June. Shout out to ProBox, by the way, because ProBox, I guess, has been working with PBC. They got Trevor McCumbee, that fight against Caleb Plant on the Canelo versus Edgar Berlanga fight card. So that was big for Trevor McCumbee. Then they also got Angelo Leo, that recent knockout title win against Venado Lopez against Top Rank. So, you know, ProBox is doing its thing. It's a great place. If you're not watching ProBox cards, they're based, I believe, out of Plant City, Florida, or something to that effect. They're out there in Florida somewhere, and they put on amazing cards, great matchups. They also travel places. I got a chance to work a ProBox event when I was out there in Guadalajara, Mexico for Canelo versus Ryder Fight Week. They also had a fight card out there. I saw my man Gio LaRocca get a win. My own gym mate, Habin Cholet, ended up getting a KO win. And these are just some of the names of people coming up. My man Gio LaRocca is probably going to be challenging for a title in the featherweight division sometime soon. But let's not veer too far off the path for what's going on in the big news that's going on. And, you know, basically, Gervonta Tank Davis has got himself another easy win. And, you know, I not an easy win. You never want to dismiss anybody, but come on, folks. Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach. That's some audacity.
Man, this is some bullshit.
And hey, I'm going to keep it a buck. I wasn't a big fan of the Canelo versus Berlanga fight. I didn't make a single piece of content pumping up that fight. Well, I didn't make any content for a minute there anyways, but I was active on Twitter, and I definitely wasn't bigging up that fight. That was a minus 1450 underdog fight for Canelo Alvarez, y'all. I wasn't going to big up that fight. Berlanga looked mid against all his opponents. Oh, he got a knockout in his last fight against a relatively unknown fighter, McCrory, whatever his name was, or not Fergal. No, that's a Lamont Roach's most recent win, but prior to that, Berlanga didn't look any good. I mean, he went the whole distance with Steve Rose and struggled greatly against Angulo, tried to bite him. Like, what are we talking about here, folks? Like, at some point, we got to have some damn sense, you know? I don't mind paying for these pay-per-views. It's a tax write-off for me, and I can afford it, but your casual boxing fan, your average boxing fan, is going to be getting this VPN and going to be streaming it illegally.
I don't like that shit. For sure, bro. I don't like that shit.
And no knock to Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Davis is arguably the face of boxing in the United States. Nobody is really packing arenas or selling out shows the way that Gervonta Davis does. Canelo Alvarez obviously is in a whole different category. He's selling way more pay-per-views and he's packing out stadiums and stuff. But Gervonta, as far as American acts go, he represents the hood. He represents the streets. He represents us. Like he represents hip hop culture and just I don't know, man. I can't get behind that. No knock to all my mo's out there in Baltimore. I'm sure they're ecstatic to hear about their dude Gervonta Tank Davis getting a guy that I don't know what the odds are going to be on this fight. Like the odds on all of Tank Davis's previous fights indicate that he's just taking the easiest fights. He's minus 600 against Frank Martin. For those of you who don't know, when you're minus, that means you're the betting favorite. Minus 600 means you got to put up $600 to get $100 back. Like, and like, what kind of nonsense?
Man, this is some bullshit.
You know what I mean? Against Ryan Garcia, he was a minus 360 favorite. Against Hector Luis Garcia, he was a minus 1600 favorite. Against Pitbull Cruz, he was minus 1200. Against Rolly Romero, he was minus 909. Against Mario Barrios, he was minus 400. The last time that Gervonta Davis was even remotely in a 50-50 fight was against Jose Pedraza in like 2017. And Canelo Alvarez isn't very far behind himself. Canelo was minus 1450 against Berlanga, minus 600 against Munguia, minus 215 against Jermel Charlo. That was a stinker of a fight. And minus 1000 against John Ryder. And no doubt, these are amazing events. They're spectacles to watch. The hoes all come out. And the buildup is going to be fantastic. The boxing world gets talking. And ultimately, as a boxing purist, it doesn't matter what I think, because I'm going to be hypercritical because I have this, encyclopedic knowledge of the sport. And I've read countless books about all the boxing legends from Jack Johnson to Muhammad Ali to Rocky Marciano. It's hard to not put it in context. Like, how does the sport survive or thrive or move forward when we're competing with UFC breathing down our necks with these fights that casuals can buy into? But does that push the sport forward? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But hats off to, that man, Lamont Roach, because he's about to come into generational wealth. And Lamont Roach, as far as I know, isn't signed to a contract with anybody. He's fought on Golden Boy cards. He fought Jamel Herring on Top Rank. His last fight was on Pro Box. This upcoming fight, if it's going to be against Gervonta Tank Davis, is obviously going to be against PBC. It's going to be on a PBC fight card. And Gervonta Davis is the WBA champion. I mean, when you look at the rankings as it stands for the sanctioning body systems or the divisions, there are fights at 130 which would be thoroughly entertaining for Lamont Roach, but obviously none of them are going to bring the kind of purse that fighting Gervonta Davis brings. You've got Robson Conceição, who's tied up in his rematch with O'Shaquie Foster, which I think would have been a great fight for Lamont Roach. In the WBA sanctioning body system, the minor WBA belt is held by Albert Batir-Gassiev. I have a hard time pronouncing some of those Eastern European names, but Albert Batir-Gassiev only has 11 pro fights, but he is an Olympic gold medalist, got a great pedigree, has a great record so far, but only 11 pro fights. Then you got Emmanuel Navarrete and Oscar Valdez, who have that rematch coming up. I believe it's in December or late November. Anthony Kakache just got a win over the King of Leeds, pretty much ending Josh Warrington, So then you got 135. You got Shakur Stevenson, who's tied up with Matchroom, who apparently, as far as I know, is waiting for William Zepeda to finish out his fight. William Zepeda's got a fight coming up in November. Who's the number one sanctioning body? William Zepeda is the number one 135-pound ranked contender in all four sanctioning body systems. So William Zepeda, I believe, being that he is with Golden Boy, and you got Shakur Stevenson with Matchroom. I don't know how that's even going to work, but apparently Shakur Stevenson wants to get a fight with William Zepeda. The other names at 135 include, obviously, Gervonta Tank Davis. You got Vasyl Lomachenko, who already turned down that fight. I guess he's wrapped up in something else going on out there in the Ukraine. I don't really know. I think Lomachenko should have taken this fight, but whatever. Dennis Beninchek, for some reason, he has not been mentioned at all. That would have been an easy title unification for Gervonta, but Gervonta should have had these fights. Gervonta is going to turn 30 years old, folks, in November, and his only real legacy-defining fight was against an undersized Leo Santa Cruz, and I'm not going to take anything away from that win. It was probably the greatest knockout of his career. Leo Santa Cruz, I believe, was a 4-division champion going into that fight, gave us legendary fights with Carl Frampton, gave us legendary fights with Abner Mares, and Other than that, Gervonta Davis has not fought any one of the other four kings except Ryan Garcia. He knocked him out. Hats off to that. He could have offered Teofimo Lopez the fight. At any point, he could have offered Devin Haney the fight. And understand, folks, all this cross-promotional politics nonsense aside, it's on Gervonta Davis ultimately to take control of his career. He's the bag man. He's the money man. So he can sit there and anytime he wants to, reach out and tell his people to tell Leonard Ellerby, to tell his handlers, hey, make that phone call. I'm going to offer the fight. And any really offer that he gives to them is going to be more than they've made in any of their fights. You're going to walk away making millions fighting Gervonta Davis, in addition to whatever Gervonta Davis makes himself selling 300,000 pay-per-view units on top of crashing gate records, $20 million, $19 million gate setting records. But yeah, that next fight anyways is going to be Gervonta Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. According to Michael Benson and according to a lot of other news outlets in the boxing media world, boxing community, what do you think about this fight between Lamont Roach and Gervonta Davis? Does Lamont Roach even remotely stand a chance against Gervonta Davis? I'm not prone to believe so. I believe if Jamel Herring knocked down Lamont Roach, obviously someone with a lot faster reflexes, a lot better counter game, and obviously world-class power like Gervonta Davis is going to find that chin, tap it, and put him out, lights out, especially a guy coming from the 130-pound weight division. Anyways, I don't want to rant about it too much. I'm going to watch the fight. I'm going to pay for the pay-per-view. Likely, we're probably going to see the David Benavidez versus Jesse Hart on that undercard, or I guess they're going to try to call it a co-main event. Boxing world, what do you think about Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach? Let me know in the comments section. Hit that like button if you haven't already done so. I'm going to end this episode, make it quick, and finish the video off with that. Until I catch y'all on the next one, y'all. You know what time it is. This is Hot Boxing Minute. Peace.